Welcome back. Today we're talking about building a moneyless society. Luckily, I have a few points to cover this time around, okay? It shouldn't be all over the place like it's been the last few episodes, hopefully. Okay, I'm gonna try my best. I am going to prevent some very controversial things. Let's just get that out of the way. If you're new to the channel, you have no idea what I'm about, you have no idea what's gonna happen. Maybe you're not, I don't know, familiar with who I am, or you didn't watch my other videos, then I'm just here to tell you that I'm not here to tell you what you want to hear. Okay. First of all, first point, breaking it down and opening it up. How is a moneyless society going to work? Obviously, in a very, very, very big capitalist society, very big capitalist city, like most of us live in these days, okay, it's very hard to picture how a moneyless society would work, because it's not going to work in a big, huge, booming, populated industrial city. It's just not going to work. And through a lot of research and consideration, I've figured that out. It just won't. So what we have to do in order for it to work is we'll have to break down our larger cities into smaller communities. Okay, and I'm thinking about 1,000 to 5,000 people would be acceptable. And before you go thinking that that's impossible, I can assure you it's not impossible. All right. In fact, I'm pretty sure there was a statistic somewhere that said you could fit the entire population, human population of the Earth into like California or some shit like that. Which means you can spread that population out very comfortably in small communities throughout the entire globe. Maybe not even that. Maybe just one continent. And we'd all be comfortable. We'd all be fine. And we'd have the rest of the entire Earth to explore and do whatever we wanted to do. You know, it'd be good. So don't go thinking that it's impossible, because it's absolutely possible. One, when you break down a community, or when you break down these large cities into smaller communities, it becomes easier to communicate. It's very difficult to communicate with larger cities right now, because they are all, what do you say? It's too condensed, and it's too populated, you know? You ever try, I mean, the fact that you have to look something up, or look someone up, or you know, call around to try to find things, you know, and you still don't always find what you're looking for, whether you're looking for a doctor's appointment or whatever, an optometrist or something, or some service, or you're even trying to locate somebody. If you go to a white pages, there's just fucking huge quantities of phone numbers for just one city. It's very, very difficult to communicate, and it's a lot easier to manipulate large groups of people than it is to manipulate smaller groups of people. Smaller groups of people, smaller groups of people tend to be more free thinking than huge groups of people. You can look up the statistics on that if you want. I've already done my research. I'm not here to talk about that research. Also, smaller communities are more tightly knit. So, and I'm sure you can already see how that would be the case. Smaller communities, you kind of know everyone who's in the community, especially if you only have about 1,000 to 5,000 people, right? You already know who's really in the community, and it wouldn't be that difficult to find out if you didn't know. And then there's the thing of communication. Like I said before, it's easier to communicate. So not only is it easier to find people, it's easier to communicate with those people. And I know you're thinking, well, if it's easy for us to find people, wouldn't it be easy for the government to find people and all this stuff, and terrorists to find people and all this stuff? Well, yeah, it would be. I mean, to be blunt, it would be easier for them to do that. But we're also going to talk about establishing a protective barrier around these communities and having that protection force, whether you call it police, whether you call it guardians, or just protectors in general. These will be willing participants, not paid, because it's a community that doesn't operate on money. So I keep looking at myself and not the camera. It's a community that doesn't operate off of money or with the use of money. So these people would have to be willing participants. And we can still vet them, and we can, the same process that's going to apply to the Council of Elders. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go look in one of my previous videos. That's either going to be up here, or down. It's going to be somewhere on here, okay. But go look at that video, and I talk a little bit about the Council of Elders. The same vetting process and voting process that would be applied to them can be applied to any area, any category of skill or anything, any job. We don't call them jobs in that framework, but you know what I mean. It could be subject to the same voting process. If you don't like somebody on the protection force, or there's, not that you don't like them, but they're not performing optimally in a way that the community agrees with, or that the community feels is that they're comfortable with, or that they need, that person can be removed and replaced by someone who is more suitable for the job. Okay. Anyway, we'll talk more about that later. Also, not only would we break the community down, or break the cities down into smaller communities, but we'd break those smaller communities down. And this isn't to say that we're separating people from one another. There is no separation going on here. There's only minimalizing square footage. We're just minimalizing what we would consider a city. We would get rid of all this extra crazy shit that we don't need, all this commercialization that is a result of capitalism, because they're trying to sell to a consumer market. There would be no consumer market in the way that we know it today, and there would be no need for that type of advertisement and that type of presence, of that commercial presence, okay? Because it wouldn't be like that. Everyone would get what they need, and that's it. It's a little bit of overhang so that the people who need a little bit more, or who aren't getting enough, or other communities that need more, we can share with them. So we'd want a little bit of overhang, but we wouldn't be overproducing on the scale that we are now. We're also going to get into that. So we could break it down into subcategories: science, art, history, architecture, technology, communication, education. Early childhood development would also, I guess, play into the education field, history, etc., on and on. It doesn't matter, because these communities will be responsible for structuring themselves however they choose, however they all agree to structure themselves. It gives each community a greater level of freedom, instead of answering to an entire state, or where there's too many people, and that leaves too many people out that don't want it but have to deal with it anyway, because of the majority rule system, which is something I propose changing to a minority rule system. But we can talk about that in a later video, and I already talked about it in a previous video. So go back and watch my other videos. I'll try to link that too. But if you want a way to think about it as a fun project. We're not just uprooting everybody's lives and totally fucking everyone. No, we want to get on a singular agreement, a mutual consensus about changing the structure at a fundamental level. We can't do that. We can start, right, so that people can kind of see. We can do it on our own individual basis. And I'm going to talk about that in the next steps. But we can't do that mass scale unless everyone's on board. And speaking of talking about end results, I do have some upcoming topics that I plan to talk about, and some of the stuff that I am including in this video, I will go further in depth on in those later topics, or those later videos. So here they are: indoctrination camps, moneyless versus money, can we accept total upheaval, is working together possible, and taking the next step, obviously, is going to be a big one. All right, so the next thing would be Contributionism replaces capitalism. All right. Now, I think I spoke about contributionism in earlier videos, but I'm just going to go over it a little bit more in these next talking points here. So, in contributionism, money disappears. I've already thrown that out there in an earlier video if you've watched it. Contributionism is an ism, unlike any other ism, unlike capitalism, communism, anything like that. Okay, socialism, it's its own complete unique thing that I don't think has ever been tried before, at least not within the last 5,000 years. Okay, no money. How does no money work? Right? Barter and trade? No. Contribution becomes the mode of exchange. Okay, so, and no, this isn't some Orwellian 1984 nightmare I'm talking about. Okay, I'm talking about you contribute your time, and you might hear my daughter crying in the background. She's been having a rough day. You contribute your time to your community. That's only 3 hours. That's all it's suggesting is 3 hours of contribution. It can be anything you want. If you're good at playing guitar, that goes into the arts category, right? Subcategory of society, of your community. You can do that to contribute to your community. 3 hours of, I don't know, playing guitar in the town square, right? And although it seems unreasonable, it seems illogical, it only seems that way looking at it from a capitalist perspective. Because the first thing your mind is trained to do is to think that doesn't make money. That is not a profitable way to live. Because we're trained to think like capitalists. But in a society where there's no money, there is no profitable way to live. Because your contribution, your 3 hours of contribution, is equally valued to everyone else's 3 hours of contribution. Okay, we have to give up this, need for approval that, we're being good hard workers, which is also taught to us in our indoctrination camps. We're being good hard workers because we did work that was more physically difficult than somebody else, so we deserve more. That ideology isn't going to fit in a contributionism society, okay? Or a contributionist society. All things done for the community, whether it be playing guitar, because somebody's going to enjoy it, okay? If you are benefiting your society because you're bringing joy, or if you're bringing a house, if you're building houses, or if you even just make nails for the people or screws for the people that build houses, whatever your contribution is, it is valuable to the society, because without it, the society or the community would be worse off. That's it. That's all you need to think of. That's the only way you need to see it, is would we be better off or worse off for it? Would we be better off for people going out and singing in the streets and playing music in the streets and being happy and showing joy and provoking joy in the streets? Or would we be worse off for it? And those are some of the questions you're just going to have to ask yourself. But anyway, that would become the means of, I don't want to say paying. It's not paying, okay? That would be the means of exchange. You contribute to the society, and there would be a way to track it, all right? I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I think there should be a way to track that, so that we can keep track of who is contributing and who isn't contributing. The ones who contribute 3 hours a week, that's all you need. Gets everything. Everything for free. Free energy, free electricity, which is energy, free water, free Wi-Fi, free, free everything that's made, free phone, free house, free car, free, or flying vehicle, fucking hovercraft, whatever it's going to be in the future, because science will be unleashed, technology and advancement will be unleashed. No money means no boundaries, except for the ones that we place on ourselves morally. So we will be unleashed to accelerate our technology at a rate that is completely unprecedented in comparison to what we see now. We could be in hovercrafts by the end of next year if we were allowed to do that, but money gets in the way. It limits overproduction. 3 hours a week, not as much overproduction. 3 hours a week increases the quality of life because you get the rest of the week. You can calculate how many hours are in a week, multiply 24 hours by 7, and then subtract the number of total hours that you're asleep, because that's not really going to matter, and all that. You get all that time to do whatever you want. Travel, go somewhere, see your relatives, hang out with family, build things, have side projects, just enjoy life and express yourself however you want to express yourself, but just enjoy being alive. That's what a lot of us miss out on, How would, this is one of the questions a lot of people ask, how would we motivate people to contribute? If it's not already apparent, I'll try to explain it the best that I can in a different way. Okay. First of all, I'm trying to think of a way to say this. Okay, I'm just going to go for it. People who aren't contributing to the community projects, who aren't putting in their 3 hours to get everything else in return, right? And this is in the transitional phase. Eventually, in the end phase, no money anywhere, not a dollar bill in sight, okay? Nothing. And we operate off this contributionism model. But in the transitional phase, we will have to use money in order to get away from money. We'll have to use the tools of liberation or the tools of enslavement as tools of liberation. So, the people who don't contribute will still have to pay for things. They will but they will pay, because I know you're thinking, well, that's unfair. They will pay significantly less than they would anywhere else, right? So you have a contributionist society or a contributionist community, and you have a project in the community where you build screws, right? You build screws for people to use for whatever purpose that they need screws and nails and stuff like that. And in part, as you participate with that, right? As you participate in that project for 3 hours, you get nails and screws for free. Okay? Because you've contributed. You get the nails and screws for free. This is in the transitional phase. Eventually, it's everything for free. But, you got to do what you can. The people who don't contribute will still have to pay for those nails and screws. Okay. But because it is a contributionist project, the nails and screws, typically, say you'd get like a box of 25 screws, nails. I know it's usually a lot more. But say you get a box of 25 screws or nails from Home Depot, that's like, what, $20? Maybe less. Usually it's typically like $20 for a box of 100, something like that. So you'd pay that at Home Depot or wherever else. Walmart maybe is a little cheaper. I have no idea. And then from the community project, you'd only be paying, say, just as an example, $5. Because the project doesn't need that much money. It doesn't need as much money as any other retailer would need, because they're getting it for free. They're making it, and the contributing members are getting it for free. So it's not like they need the money, right? They have screws, but they need money to pay for other things, okay? Eventually, that won't be a necessity. I know it sounds like gibberish, okay? And it sounds like I'm hanging on these topics for longer than I should. But I promise, all right, I'm going to be going further in depth in all of these things in future videos. I'm going to give you an example. I wrote down an example. I'm going to try to follow it loosely. So, a dude doesn't want to contribute to the community. Therefore, He has to work a regular job to afford resources within the community. His friends are all contributing their 3 hours to the community and or the projects or whatever, and they're getting the resources for free that the dude is paying for. His friends are getting it for free because they're contributing. On top of that, his friends get the rest of the week to do literally whatever they want. And this is end phase talk here. This is an end phase example. This is the entire community is on a contributionism model, and there is no capitalism. Okay, so you either contribute or you don't get access. Okay, and that's not to say that you can't go out and cut down a tree and try to do it yourself. There's total freedom to do that. You can go do that. But if you want things from the community that other people are working to make, using their skills to make, contributing to make, you have to in turn contribute. So he doesn't contribute, but his friends are. They're getting stuff. He's not getting it. And the guy looks at his friends, right? And he thinks, well, shit, I want to get everything I need for free. I want to quit the stupid job that I've been working that I don't enjoy. I don't really mind contributing. It's only 3 hours a week. Not that big of a deal. 3 hours goes by like that, especially if it's something I enjoy, right? And it uses skills that and talents that I naturally have. It shouldn't be too difficult for me, correct? Yes? So it's easy to see how dude, would inevitably join in on the fun, right? He would inevitably contribute 3 hours. And the first time, he would be hooked, because the first time that he contributes 3 hours, the very first time, for the rest of that week, he will get everything he needs for free. Everything he needs for free. And he will enjoy the shit out of it. He will be a very happy person for that week. And the next week will roll around, and he'll be even more likely, it might not even be a thought in his mind not to, he will contribute 3 hours again. And for another week, he'll get everything that he needs, and so on and so forth. And copy paste that to every single person who has a I'm not gonna do shit attitude. Eventually, they will contribute. And it's not like, hold a gun to their head, you better contribute or else. It's really not like that. It sounds aggressive to say they will contribute because they will be forced to by their circumstances. It sounds cruel, but it absolutely is not cruel. You know what is cruel? Waking up 5 a.m, working 8 hours or more, 8 to 10 hours is typical. Coming home towards the end of the day, around dinner time, and you didn't get to see your family, you didn't get to really talk to your family, you didn't get to see all the developmental leaps or the first times that your children did stuff, maybe you missed out on your kid walking for the first time. Maybe you missed out on them saying their first word because you were at work the entire fucking day. And then you're stressed. Even when you get home after work, you're usually stressed. You're stressed, and this is more so for, the hard workers, right? Than it is for the people who just have to, wipe a wall for 8 hours. I'm sure there are jobs out there that are that easy. Or for the stock traders who literally just have to click a few buttons and they make millions. Either way, the actual hard workers are even more stressed out because they come home and they worry about having to get up and do it again the next day. Because it's usually a job that they don't enjoy, right? It's usually a job that you don't like. I'm not only am I speaking from experience, I'm speaking from multiple other people, almost all other people that I know experience that they've shared with me. So, I digress. Community members choose their contribution. I don't know if that wasn't already explicitly clear. Let me just hit on that again. So upon moving into or joining a project within your own community, you'll be asked what skills or talents that you have, or what they are, and then based on those, you will be given a list of projects that are suited to your skills and your talents. And this will usually take place in typically like a municipality building, or the council of elders, right? This will take place with them, or an extension of them, checkpoints throughout the city, whatever. Like I said, I don't have all the answers. The city will evolve from the minds of the people within it. The community will build their city however they choose. But upon choosing the projects you'd like to contribute to, you'll be given a way to get involved with them. Some type of contact information for somebody in the community that can help you get involved, or something like that. You'll be given some way to start, and it will be logged. Your hours will be logged, just like you would clock in and clock out at work, right? And those logged hours would be returned to the municipality or whatever, so that they can know that you need to get all of your resources for free based on your contribution. Okay? And that starts as soon as you contribute for the first time. Your first contribution is when that starts. Workload is more acceptable. That's the last one of the last talking points. Workload is more acceptable. Working for only 3 hours a week, doing something that you enjoy, and getting the rest of the week to spend doing literally whatever else you want. Whatever else you want. Doesn't that sound like a pretty good deal? I mean, we're always complaining about not having enough time to do this, not having enough time to do that. Would it not be beneficial to do whatever you want for a week? I think that sounds fucking great. And if anyone's on the fence about it, or has an I'm gonna sit on my ass attitude, like I said, they'll eventually decide to participate. It's the incentive is just too great to refuse. The freedom is just too great to refuse. It's the freedom that we've all been begging for. There are some questions that I did not address. I will address in later videos. Some of those questions are: what is preventing one person from taking everything? Some people literally ask this next question, and as much as it irks me, it is a genuine concern that people have, and it's based off of the indoctrination. It's based off of living in a capitalist society. Our minds are kind of manipulated into being this way. But a question that people ask is, how will we pay for things? Okay, I'm going to address that in a later video. Without money, wouldn't the world descend into chaos? I don't know if I already addressed that, but that's another question. How are we going to motivate people to produce what we all need, right? Well, I would hope that this just answered that question, at least. And then how will we limit waste? That's another important question. And there's a bunch of other questions that are equally important that I just didn't get around to writing down. But leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video, what I said, think about what I said, reflect on what I said, maybe do some research. I'll leave some links in the description, and throw some questions at me. Any questions that you have, even if I already brought them up and said them in this video, whatever you can think of, throw those questions at me. I'll look over them, and I will have an answer for you in a later video. All right, so I talked about the upcoming. I hit all my points. That's it. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Leave a comment, hit the bell so you get notified. And yeah, just let me know how you'd like things to go on this channel and what you'd like to see and what you'd like to hear me talk about. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.